Well, it's getting to that time of year. It's getting warmer. That means, unfortunately, crime oftentimes will tick up, not just in Kansas City, but around the country for that matter. And that has been a big topic of conversation this week so far for the mayor of Kansas City and in this town. Quinton Lucas joining us on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio, and always streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Mr. Mayor, let's start here. Back and forth that went a bit viral, yourself and Fox 4 reporter Malik Jackson, over text messages that you had with business owners. Listen, your number's out there. People in town who want your number have your number. How would you respond to some folks who are saying that you are not getting back to people in town when it comes to crime in Kansas City?
Yeah, first of all, there is a high volume of messages that come in. I don't think that this is the most important issue. I do, however, think that accuracy and telling the truth and responding when people call you a liar is. Actually last night, I didn't actually add this to social media, although I've done a lot. I actually checked with AT&T and FirstNet, my cell phone provider, and looked to see if there were any text messages at all from these folks. AT&T itself says there are not. I've tried to share that with Mr. Jackson. I would think that he wouldn't want to be seen as a liar or somebody who's just vastly misrepresenting things. I would hope Channel 4 would not. I've asked for a correction. I'll see what they do today. It's kind of an ancillary issue, but as you know, because we talk every week, there's been all this chat about accuracy and all of that, particularly from the government side. The only thing that I ask for is people that are honest the other way. And, I had told them on Saturday, I responded to other people online, I don't think I saw this message ever. It didn't come through. Checked a number of different ways, all that sort of stuff. I actually do know tech somewhat, and then I was able to check last night. So I'm glad that at least my side of things is accurate. If you've looked at their reports on Channel 4 and their interestingly cut video, I would hope that they actually correct the record, because Lord knows the way it looks, it's anything but.
So you're saying that even though you and Malik went back and forth to confirm the text message was sent to the correct number and there was a read receipt on it, you're saying AT&T proved that you didn't actually get these messages?
That's correct. So, I find the read receipt actually the most interesting part, but I did post a little bit on the Fox 4 Facebook commentary, kind of at least the shots of where my numbers or the folks who texted me came in. So didn't get the message, don't understand kind of what happened on the other end. I did ask him, the only way you could really look to it is if you had both phones and you saw somebody changed a number or a name on it. I don't want to cast aspersions necessarily, because I do actually care about accuracy and don't want to talk about somebody who believes they were writing to me, who obviously didn't get the chance to.
So now, the bigger question then, beyond the text message kerfuffle taking place is, you and I have talked every week for 5 years now. We've talked for going on 8 years now. I don't want to say there's nothing new here, but how many different ways can somebody ask you what will do that's new or different when it comes to crime in this town? You do have more business owners seemingly speaking up about it, though, which means there's a lot more concern out there. So what can you do short term? I know long term, police are recruiting, everything else, but what short term do you want to do, can you do to hopefully make this summer season, when the crime upticks, hopefully safer for people?
I think there is kind of an interesting back and forth kind of on, can anything be done, what can be done. Step one, I think some cities have been able to address it. I even shared some on social media the other day. The city of St. Louis, I know, has done through their police department a lot more ATV enforcement activities, because all these people who are doing this work are doing it for show and TikTok likes or whatever you call them and all of that. I think it's important for the law enforcement side to make the same level of show. I appreciated that out of St. Louis the other day. I think I'd like to see more of it. I think on the other side of things, I would hope that, and I have said this a number of different years, that, we always look at how we're deploying staff in the warm weather months. There may be some operations where you need folks in some areas at times of the year that you don't in others. Obviously, there are more people out. There are more people out in entertainment districts. You saw just a few months ago, we approved more funding for security enhancement in entertainment districts, off-duty police and sheriff's deputies. Obviously, that's necessary. That program is to start pretty soon here in the new budget year, which just started on May 1. So there are things to do, and that's why police department command staff shows up every day. It's why we all keep coming to work, because there isn't really a magic wand solution. I do think opening up detention spaces in our patrol divisions can be something that could be helpful. But I'll actually say this. I got a text message from business owners who somehow were able to get through to me without the big kerfuffle this morning, talked to me about a break-in downtown. And they asked about the National Guard. They asked about having highway patrol in Kansas City. Those are all things that I would evaluate in terms of having more bodies. If we had highway patrol doing the traffic enforcement on our highways, if that could free up KCPD and other places, I think all of those things need to be looked at. And I'll just say this, and maybe it sounds somewhat self-interested or self-serving, but you've been interviewing me all these years, and people, and Pete, you've seen it, people come at me every month. God, Clint Lucas did this or did that. I take that, take it on, I ran for the job. I would love for us to see how we can build something different, how we can actually move ahead. Because, kind of saying he didn't respond to my text message and us having stories about it and us still disagreeing, although I think I have the truth, which is the actual telecommunications company, is a bit of a sideshow. I think that what we actually need to do is say, what the hell, we're all together for a few years. We've got to figure out a better path. We understand the problem. We understand there are offenders. How do we have enough bodies on the street to scare them into knowing either they'll be arrested, they'll be intervened with in some way, and that there will actually be consequences.
Do you know what's going on in Baltimore, where they saw their homicides drop dramatically last year? I know we had a downtick as well, but I saw something the other day that Baltimore in the month of April dropped their numbers on homicides to a historic low. Now, I know a lot of the crime we're talking about is not necessarily homicide related. It's property crimes, it's theft, it's car issues, things like that. But do you know what Brandon Scott's doing there in Baltimore?
I know very well. Been to Baltimore a few times. I know Mayor Scott very well. I last saw him probably just a few weeks ago. I mean, I'm going to sound woke to you or something, but look, what they have not done is actually increase police staffing. I'm not saying that you reduce it, but they also have the same staffing challenges we did. They also have the same purported prosecutorial challenges that at least people claim that we used to. They have done a lot more in terms of stopping the cycle of retaliation on shootings. They have done a lot more in getting in front of focused deterrence, something our department does, but I'd love to see even more of. That means actually looking at offenders, identifying them, and saying, look, we're giving you a pathway to services if you aren't actually committing this offense. If you do, you'll run into consequences. But no, what Brandon Johnson didn't do and what he is not is a Rudy Giuliani with respect to former Mayor Giuliani or some of the others who just said, hey, I'm just going to be tough and shout it and all that sort of stuff. He said we're going to actually be smart about crime. And in being smart about crime, one of America's most dangerous cities for generations of our lives, where the wire is set, where homicide life on the streets was set, is now vastly safer. I would love for us to take some of the lessons from Baltimore. I got to talk to their police chief, by the way, Pete, this was probably last year, and talk to him about, man, your numbers are down from your highs when you started. All of this other stuff is happening. What did you do? And it is them being smarter on deployment. It is them being smarter on how do you stop the cycle of violence? How do you make sure you're getting more deterrence into the streets? And that's the step you do, rather than all of us kind of saying, oh, what the hell? It's like liberal politicians. Trust me, in Maryland, their politicians are vastly more liberal.
So if it's that simple, why can't Kansas City implement it?
Hey, well, I mean, I don't know. People call me a broken record, Pete. I'd love to. I'd love to tomorrow. I mean, look, if you let me say, and actually I asked this during the budget cycle, we have different patrol divisions, and then we have some like special operations and special investigations divisions, very good amounts of budget. What are all those officers doing? How can they be best deployed? Is there a better way to deploy them? I'd love to see that review right now, right? We have never done that as far as I'm aware, the Board of Police Commissioners, at least not during my 6.5 years there. I think the next thing that I would love to see, how do we keep doing more on the intervention of retaliatory violence side? I absolutely welcome more investment there. How do we get more cameras? Hell, I proposed red light cameras last summer and was talking about it. I know some people hate it, but if we've got traffic issues and not enough traffic officers, let us have some cameras doing the work there. Let's have officers deployed to things where they're intervening with people doing bad stuff. I mean, these are all things that I'd absolutely adore doing. I'd like to do it more than once a month at a board meeting. I'd like to do it more than just kind of sending letters. For example, after we passed an ordinance on red light cameras, I sent a letter, got a response, kind of all gone nowhere. I guess I need to send a new letter. I mean, this is how we end up here. So something that somebody said in the Facebook comments on some chat I said about the text message palooza was saying, well, what the hell, what is he going to say other than, thank you, I received your message, I'm going to share it with somebody else. The person's not entirely wrong. We need to have some level of change, and this conversation needs to include your frequent guest, the governor. It needs to include our police commissioners. This can't just be a thing where you and me and Facebook and some gotcha questions at Channel 4 and a few others and pissed off business owners are the only ones who actually are in the conversation. We need more people in it to try to get this sort of thing changed in KC.
Well, I think most people would agree with that. And then it's like, what does the implementation look like? And if it's, getting some bad people off the streets before they commit worse crimes, that certainly seems like a noble cause that the police department would also want to get behind, right? I mean, there's no reason that I think Stacey Graves wouldn't get behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pete, I hope, I don't want to blow through your time and your great advertisers, but we're seeing that done. Melissa Johnson, if we're being fair, somebody I was proud to support for prosecutor, every day has got a new release on a new bad person that she's getting off the streets. She is prosecuting heavily. She is bringing intriguing charges against some that we haven't seen for years. Tow operators, desecration of a grave, whatever the heck the police are largely writing up for in Kansas City, Independence, and everywhere else, she's finding charges on them. She's laying charges on them. And by the way, those people go to county jail. Or should, right? Those are the sorts of things that are happening. At City Hall, and you know this because you read it all. Maybe everybody else doesn't. We pass new ordinances every 2 weeks, it feels like. I feel like I've written 5 different ordinances on street racing. I introduced a new ordinance on loitering today to deal with those people that are just dealing with perhaps someone who's unhoused standing outside their spot. I mean, we're doing stuff. I appreciate doing that. What I think at its core, and look, we can see who's to blame or who's not or whatever. I don't care either. The mayor of Baltimore hires the police chief. I guess he can say, do some more enforcement here. And that's fine. That's not the system I live under. But what I would say is when I talk to a David Lopez, who I've talked to before, who is the Manny's owner, who wants more attention to this, he wants more enforcement. Everybody else wants more enforcement. I live in Midtown, so I know this too. When we hear cars and all the issues around us, they want more enforcement. So what the hell? Let's find a way to get more enforcement. Now, I'm not the one who just gets to signal it myself, but I'll convene a Board of Police Commissioners meeting today. Actually, we will all be together to say, hey, guys, is there a way we can get more enforcement? If we don't have the bodies, can we get Highway Patrol to help us as they've done in St. Louis? And if we don't have the bodies for that, is there something else? That's the area of interest that I have. But, look, if people want me to play in the text message game and ask me questions and do all that, I'll do that too.
Mayor Lucas on KCMO. I do want to ask you, it came to my attention here in the last couple of days that after former President Biden commuted the sentence of about 2,500 people, there is some concern in law enforcement that we will have, and we are having dozens of people coming back to the Metro, KCMO and KCK, obviously at the top of that list. And these are individuals with, charges of distribution of crack cocaine, methamphetamine, use of firearms, drug trafficking. The politics of it aside from the former president, this is the last thing it seems like Kansas City needs right now. So what do you as the mayor think about this and how this potentially is going to go for a city that doesn't need more criminals on the streets right now?
Pete, I got 99 problems and Joe Biden ain't one. I mean, okay, I guess that happened in the past.
Well, not certainly Biden, but the criminals on the streets could be your problem.
They certainly would, and we're going to try to arrest them and address them in the same way that you would any other criminals that present. I'm not going back over Joe Biden's past pardons or Bill Clinton's or Donald Trump's earlier ones. Hell, I've barely spoken about his Trump's more recent pardons. I think the issue that we need to do is find a way to get these people off the streets. And by the way, to the extent that people wonder my views on detention, I actually believe in locking up people. And you know what? If the answer is that you get a temporary jail that magically we can put up for $1 million tomorrow, and it's going to take 250 people or 300, which is something I've heard, and we can put it in a place in the city that just works, hey, I'm all in. I have a question if it's that cheap and if it's that easy, because nothing in government ever seems to be, but I'm there. I mean, I think what we want to see is that more enforcement. And what we also want to see is ultimately no excuses. In the same way that people don't like hearing from me when I talk about control and all of that, and that's fair. And I balance it, but, that's fair. I just want to hear about enforcement, not what Joe Biden's been up to, not for flipping 2020. Right? When half of our offenders were like 10-year-olds and all of that, and people are like, oh, but they learned bad things back. No, they didn't. They were 10, right? What they have done is grown up in too many situations where we don't have a home to support them and all of that. And so they're growing up learning from the wrong people. What I want us to all see right now is actually enforcement activity. I want to make sure we're there to support enforcement activity to the fullest extent. We will craft every ordinance. We will craft every rule. We will build every facility that's necessary to support that. And to the extent that there are other actors in the state of Missouri, including my police commissioner colleagues, a governor, and anybody else who can hear me, I ask them to be committed to doing the same and removing the politics of liberal cities do bad stuff. Because you're right, Baltimore saw a drop. I know we don't want to say this. St. Louis has seen a decline in homicides. A bunch of other places that are usually worse than us on lists are seeing improvements that are more marked than ours. And I think we can get there by some collaboration from there. And, I'll take whatever it is to do it.
All right, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, as always, for the conversation. We greatly appreciate it. And we will talk to you again next week. Have a good weekend.
And Pete, 816-679-1662 is the number. Test it out. Text me, and then we'll see if you can get through. I'll see y'all later.
Be careful what you wish for. There you go. That is Quinton Lucas on KCMO Talk Radio. He gave it fast, but he just did give his cell phone number.